Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we take a trip back to the Civil War and talk about the Battle of Fredericksburg.
That's right, Johnny. I got the Battle of Fredericksburg for you, and I felt like I would dress up for the occasion.
Yeah, you look nice.
Civil War duds here, and drinking my almost period correct hams because it was ested in 1865, so it's almost there. We're close enough.
Now, Fredericksburg was towards the beginning of the war. Is that right? 1862?
That's correct. It was fought from December 11th through December 15th on 1862 around the city of Fredericksburg, Virginia, and was part of the Eastern Theater. So it was fought between the Army of the Potomac, which is now actually the Union Army of the Potomac, not like in Bull Run where that was weirdly the Confederate Army, and then the Confederate Army of the Army of Northern Virginia, which is actually the Confederate Army now and not the Union Army's name at the beginning of Bull Run. So I'm making it confusing for everybody.
So they just switched it, or
they switched their names around. It was really weird.
I mean, you're fighting your own country. It's confusing enough. Let's get our names set and just keep those going.
Well, because when I was doing the research for Bull Run, I was confused as shit. I was like, what? Army of Northern Virginia? That's Confederate. Why am I talking about you? That was their first name they went with. Probably good idea that they changed that, considering you have Virginia in the name.
I guess it does make sense as to why they would, switch those names out, but it does make it a little bit confusing. Now, 1862 is election year, right?
No. That was 64 was the election
64,
year.
Okay. Yeah. Towards the end.
So we're a few years off from the election, but some of what happens in this campaign is kind of Lincoln thinking longer ahead. So he is worried about public opinion, which is partly why.
I mean, every sitting president is the entire time they're in office. Like that's
except for some.
Well, I mean, he's concerned with it. He's just, All right.
Anyways,
let's go back in time, please. I prefer it back then.
Back in time, we've got General Ambrose Burnside, who's in charge of the Union forces. We've talked about him a couple of times now.
Old Burnside.
In case you forgot about old Burnside, he was Johnny. Do you remember his occupation?
No, but I'm guessing career military.
No, civil engineer.
Oh, that's right. This is all the engineers.
This is your either a civil engineer or career military.
Or career military. It's a 50-50 shot.
He was also a railroad executive, an inventor, an industrialist, and a politician from Rhode Island. He invented the Burnside carbine, which was the third most used carbine during the Civil War for the North. And he made no real financial gains from that, though, because like an idiot, he sold it before the war outbroke because that made sense. Had he kept the patents to it.
That's just good business planning.
Yeah. So that gives you already an insight on this guy. Like we talked about in some of the first episodes regarding the Civil War, he was one of the ones that raised his own volunteer regiment. So he was the first Rhode Island volunteer infantry. And that's kind of how he got to start with the Civil War. And ironically enough, two of the companies in that regiment were armed with Burnside carbines.
Hey.
Which he made no money on.
So he's like, hey, I made that. They're like, oh, man, you must be loaded. He's like, oh, well, I didn't make any money off that. I just invented the gun and then sold the rights to it.
Let me tell you a story.
So there's a reason I'm doing this now and not living on an island somewhere.
So, from Bull Run, he was just a brigadier general. So he didn't have any major command. So he wasn't commanding the whole army. So you might wonder what the hell happened between, 1861 and 1862. How did he become the head?
Yeah.
Well, it was a series of Lincoln kind of begging him. So when McClellan, who was the first leader during Bull Run, gets bumped, they asked Burnside. And he said, I'm really good friends with McClellan, and I don't want to hurt his reputation, so I'm not going to do it. Plus, I really don't think I'm qualified to do this. I'm kind of a fucking moron.
Hey, Tom, you're welcome to take any job that I used to have at any time, just so we're clear.
Yeah,
I won't be upset.
I figured you wouldn't be. It's such an odd concept. So Lincoln puts Pope in charge, but Pope is removed pretty quick because, fuck ups. It happens. And then they went back to ask old Burnside again. And he said, look, listen, Lincoln.
Again.
I'm telling you, I am not qualified to do this.
Nothing like putting somebody in a position where they themselves are saying, no, thank you. I can't do this. I'm not qualified.
Please don't make me do it.
I'm sure you'll learn. You'll figure it out. How hard can it be? It's just commanding the Army of the North.
Yeah, the whole army in the East, yeah. Well, so they went back to McClellan, and McClellan fucked up again because, it's the early part of the Civil War, which wasn't going well for the North.
Yeah.
So after this one, Lincoln came back to him a third time and said, listen, I really, really like your Burnsides.
Yeah.
I really, really, really think that you should go ahead and take command.
Yeah. Did he?
Listen, Lincoln, I really don't want it. I'm not qualified. All right, I'll tell you what. If you don't take it, Hooker's going to get it. Oh, shit. We can't have Hooker take command because Hooker, there's a reason why we call him Hooker. He likes his women.
Yeah.
We can't have that asshole being in charge. So Burnside reluctantly takes command of the Army of the Potomac in November of 1862, basically because he didn't want Hooker and his whores to take command.
All right. So he's the type of guy that, no, I don't want it because my friend used to have it. Oh, but I'm gonna take it because I don't want that asshole to get it. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. And this is he takes command. That's
about
a month before this starts.
Before the battle. Yeah.
Robert. So I imagine this was like his first big battle then.
Yeah, this is his first campaign, and might be his only campaign. Buckle up, Johnny. Get ready, because this one is
all right.
This one is rough.
All right, so we're in Fredericksburg, Virginia, right?
Yep. And on the other side, in the Army of Northern Virginia, we've got Robert E. Lee, who's finally taking command of the Confederate armies because, well, before then, he was more of an advisor. But once Johnson got hit, remember Johnson from Bull Run?
Yeah.
Robert E. Lee takes command. Robert E. Lee, he's the son of a Revolutionary War hero named Henry Lighthorse Lee, so at least his dad had a cool nickname, right?
Yeah, dope name. That's awesome.
Johnny, can you guess his occupation?
Civil engineer.
Nah, career military.
I should have guessed that since he came from his dad.
He should have switched it around. He was one of the top of his class at the U.S. Military Academy. He had a successful 32-year military career with the United States prior to the Civil War outbreaking.
Prior to it, holy moly!
Yeah, prior to it, he was a war hero during the Mexican-American War, and he was a superintendent of the same U.S. Military Academy that he graduated for a while. Lincoln actually approached him at the start of the war and said, "Hey, look, you're good. You want?"
Yeah, I was gonna say this sounds like a guy we might want for our side.
Yeah, you wanna join our side, and Lee gave it serious consideration up until Virginia seceded, and since Virginia was his home state, he's like, "Look, I can't lead troops against my neighbors.
That would be tough. Yeah, that's
here is my resignation."
Yeah, that's a tough ask.
And really, the thing that a lot of the Southern sympathizers, rednecks, whatever you want to call them, people who still fly the Confederate flag, which isn't the Confederate flag because they think Robert E. Lee was their god or something. Yeah, Robert E. Lee was against secession. He thought it was unconstitutional and illegal. So,
yeah,
good for you on that one. And
good
he also thought slavery was a dying institution. Right on that count too.
This guy sounds like a pretty smart guy.
Yeah, he is. It's unfortunate that he felt such loyalty to Virginia. Otherwise,
it's unfortunate. He didn't want to literally kill his neighbors.
Yeah, otherwise it might not have gone so far in that side.
Yeah, it might have been the short little war we thought it was going to be, right?
It very well could have. Yeah. At this point in time, Robert E. Lee, he's taken over command of the army. He's been there for a good little bit now. He's tried his invasion of Maryland, which went off with real good success, which is kind of what leads up to this whole Fredericksburg thing.
Okay.
Where they fight at Antietam, and it's a draw, but really a Confederate loss because the Confederates had to retreat out of Maryland back to the South.
No.
And then Robert E. Lee also thought, well, Maryland, it's a slave owning state, so surely they'll be supportive of me. Yeah, and pretty much every city that he went to kicked him out. They're like, yeah, we don't want you here. Get out of here, you traitor. So,
well, I guess he did just kind of make them all pretty mad when he
Started shooting at things and breaking things.
Well, and said, I'm not going to be on your side. I'm going to go be on the other side. And then, hey, can I sleep in your bed? I'm going to attack your neighbors tomorrow. Is it all right if I stay here for a night?
Yeah, pretty much. So just to give you an idea of the scale of the Battle of Fredericksburg, the Army of the Potomac would have 122,009 men with them. 114 would be engaged. So this is a very large, large battle. Yeah, this is this is where the Civil War numbers really start to get inflated for casualties and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, when you bring that many people, you're
right.
Gonna have more
well, and when you have some really good tactics that we're going to talk about, Johnny.
It's like if you just start testing everybody, you're going to find more cases of coronavirus. They should have just brought fewer people, and then they wouldn't have had as many casualties.
Right.
Or said they brought fewer people.
The Army of Northern Virginia would have 78,513 underneath them, with 72,500 engaging. So you've got damn near double the Union to Confederate. So this should be a pushover, right?
That's a little lopsided. Yeah. How do you not just show them your army and then have them be like, never mind. That's a lot of people. It's like 2-1.
Well, Johnny, we're going to get there. This is perfect. So what leads up to the Battle of Fredericksburg? Well, in November 1862, Lincoln is getting desperate for a successful Northern campaign in the South before the people in the North would lose heart. Because right now, yes, we did successfully oust the Confederates out of Kentucky when they tried to invade Kentucky.
Yeah.
And we did successfully oust the Confederates in Maryland when they tried to take over Maryland. So we've won some good battles on our side.
Yeah.
But we haven't really won any substantial battles in the South.
Right.
And even when we won those battles in the North, we didn't defeat the Confederate armies, so they were able to retreat back south and still have a will to fight.
Just regrouped. Yeah. They're just like, we'll try again.
So Lincoln would give Burnside command on November 7th, 1862. Even though the guy felt he was unfit to lead the army, like we talked about, and let this guy who thinks he doesn't know what he's doing develop a plan.
I mean, what is that? Like, I don't know what to do here. I have no idea. All right, we'll come up with a plan, but I don't know where to start.
I don't know what to do.
Figure it out, pal. How hard can it be?
And not only does that plan mean that you have to invade the South, but you have to go up against Robert E. Lee, who minus Antietam hasn't ever lost.
Yeah.
And even Antietam's kind of a wash. It's not really a loss.
Yeah,
well, Burnside, on November 9th, so 2 days after taking command, he develops his genius plan. He would amass his entire army in clear view of Warrenton, Virginia.
There you go. Scare him. I like that.
Yep. Like, look at my 144,000 men army. Guys dressed like this, dapper, with the little hats.
I mean, not the most intimidating uniforms, but I get it. Like, a lot of people.
Yeah.
In a spot is still, even dressed like goofs are going to be intimidating.
They're going to be intimidating, right? Yeah. The U.S. uniforms for military intimidation really didn't it was like World War I before we started getting kind of cool looking.
Right. Yeah. Well, when everything's about marching in formation and everything like that, you want it's more about the flair and the
supposed to look pretty and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. You get your little, was that a bugle on the top of yours? Your hat?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That means infantry.
No, okay, there you go.
Yeah, if they were cross cannons, it's artillery. Cross sabers means cav. The little bugle is infantry.
Nice.
Because the fucking musket I carry around wouldn't be an indicator at all.
Well,
Or the horses you ride.
In case people can't figure it out.
Or the big ass cannon.
Check out this dope hat.
Check out my dope hat. Yep. His plan would then be to feign movement against Culpeper Courthouse, and then rush his army across the Rappahannock River near Fredericksburg and race on to Virginia. So his plan is
he's going to dirty flinch the courthouse and then really go somewhere else.
Exactly. Look at my army. I'm in Warrington. I'm going to attack the courthouse. No, I'm going across the river. Chase me to Richmond. If I get to Richmond first, I win because this is capture the flag, right? That's how it works in real life, right?
As far as Burnside knows. It's like I just have to get people there, right? And then it's game over.
Right. His hope was that Lee would not immediately pursue him as to not knowing what his intentions were, and he wanted to utilize the RF&P rail line that ran from Fredericksburg to Virginia in order to supply his troops and get them there quickly. But as we've talked about before in episodes, and we're going to have our own episode on the railroads in the South anyways.
Okay.
Railroads in the South aren't great.
Yeah, states' rights.
And from city to city, states' rights. I want 10-gauge rail. I want 9-gauge rail. Well, that's not going to cause any problems.
You just bring your 9-gauge rail up over there. We'll put our 10-gauge rail here, and then all you got to do is cross the entire city to get from one rail to the next. Easy peasy.
Right? The plan would be would basically be entirely relying on outmaneuvering and outpacing the Army of Northern Virginia and to take the capital before they knew what hit them, which isn't necessarily a bad plan, but we've tried this before in the Peninsula Campaign with McClellan, which didn't work because it took McClellan too long to march onto Virginia. So this is all based on timing.
Yeah, right.
And that means
a brand new commander should be able to time everything pretty well.
Right, but at least at this point, the Army's a little bit better trained. They've marched in formation at least a couple of times. They're a little bit better equipped. So hopefully this will work. He also chose this route as opposed to attacking south at Warrenton, where the Confederate, the Army of Northern Virginia was currently at, because he didn't think that the O&A railroad line that was around Warrenton would supply his troops, because he recognized that rail line, it's kind of shit.
It's just not.
But this other rail line, I'm hopeful for this other rail line. Well, Johnny, the plan instantly kind of starts to fall apart right off the bat. Because on November,
out of the gates,
pretty much right out of the gates. Yep. Because on even Lincoln right off the bat was like, I don't like this plan.
Guys, maybe not.
I think the
I really wish you would have told me that you didn't know what to do with any of this before I hired you for this job. I mean, come on. Like, you don't have a better plan than this?
Right. Lincoln right off the bat said, I think the O&A rail line is perfectly fine. They're at Warrenton. Why don't you just attack them at Warrenton? You damn near double their numbers. It seems to be good ground to fight on. Attack at Warrenton.
And Burnside's like, what are you, the commander-in-chief or something? What the hell?
Yeah, right? Burnside's like, listen, I really like my sneaky idea. Then we don't have to fight at all. We can just take their capital and they'll surrender, because that's how war works.
Without fighting. I snuck in. I'm in the capital. I win.
I planted my flag, Johnny.
You have a flag?
It's fine now. Well, on November 9th, November 7th, Burnside had to already order pontoon bridges to cross the river.
Sure. It's
a river. You might want a way to cross a river. So he ordered a crap ton of pontoon bridges.
Either ford it or try to cross it. You got to pay the money to ford it, or you're going to lose at least 3 oxen and half your family.
And get dysentery. That's how I learned on Oregon Trail there.
Oregon Trail, yeah.
Yep. The Army began movement the Army of the Potomac began movement on November 15th. They made it to the outskirts of Fredericksburg on November 17th. And you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, Johnny, it's November 17th. They did, in fact, outbeat the Army of Northern Virginia to Fredericksburg.
Hey.
There's only a token couple of hundred people at Fredericksburg to defend it. A couple of home guard guys.
Yeah.
Why did the battle not happen until December?
Yeah, why didn't they just go ahead and take it then? Like, Fredericksburg, that's mine now.
Yeah, those pontoon boats didn't arrive.
Was it because of a rail system, or they just didn't show up manufacturing?
Well, yeah, partly. The bridges were delayed because of bureaucracy. It took till the 15th of November for the 50th New York Engineers to even get the pontoons ready to move. So it took them till basically the Army started moving before we even had the bridges made. So comes to, now we've got the pontoon bridges, which the pontoons are basically, you have kind of 2 rowboats with a large plank that goes over it. Okay. That's how it works. You have a couple of boats with a plank system.
Okay.
But what they failed to have was the 270 horses and carriages needed to move all this equipment with the Army. So the boats are ready, but we don't have a way to move them.
So it's a logistical problem.
It's a little bit of a logistical problem. So maybe at this point, don't move yet, Burnside.
Just chill
a couple of days or something. Figure it out, or pick a different plan, or enter U.S. General Edwin V. Sumner. Guess his occupation, Johnny? 50-50 shot.
Civil engineer.
Career military.
God damn it. I'm going to get one of these.
Yeah, he was born on January 30th, 1797. And I give you his birth date, Johnny, because I said January 30th, 1797. He is the oldest field commander of any of the armies on either side because he was 65 fucking years old at this battle.
Thank you for also doing the math and letting me know how many years that was different.
You're welcome. And his age becomes important here because when Sumner arrives in Falmouth, which is right by Fredericksburg, he tells Burnside, telegraphs Burnside, says, we don't really need the bridges. This water's fine. We can ford right across it. There's literally only 300 people in Fredericksburg. We need to take it now and get the high grounds on the other side of Fredericksburg before the Confederates arrive. Because if they arrive and get those high grounds, we're screwed.
Okay, I mean, that's a convincing argument.
That is a convincing argument. And do you know what Burnside said to that argument?
I'm guessing, since he's a idiot, he said, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, we're going to wait because it's rained. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's rained a couple of times, Johnny. So clearly that river has to be up. I will completely ignore the guy who's 65 years old, ankle deep in the water going, we can walk across it.
Yeah, like literally, look at me. Look, it's not getting higher than my thigh. It'll be fine.
If a 65-year-old geriatric guy is telling me, yeah, I can wade it in the middle of November when it's cold as shit, I'm going to go ahead and take his opinion that we can go ahead and wade it.
Yeah, you trust that. Like, there's a reason. You get wisdom as you get older. Like,
but he doesn't. Lee at first thought Burnside would beat him across the Rappahannock. Sorry.
So Lee's sitting there thinking, oh, shit, he's already
they're going to make it.
He's definitely going to go across because why wouldn't you? Any reasonable commander would.
Yep. So what he does is he actually positions his men in between Fredericksburg and Richmond.
Okay.
Orders his men to march. After about a week of that and seeing that Burnside was still twiddling his thumbs across the river, he went, oh, you know what? Scratch that. We're going to go ahead and march to Fredericksburg. There are two really good hills, one immediately west of the city and one south of the city that kind of line up in a perfect line facing the river. I'm going to go ahead and just sit up there and put my artillery pieces up there and see if these idiots are dumb enough to come at us.
I bet they were.
You might be right. By November,
I'm guessing that they were.
Yeah, they were. By November 23rd, Longstreet had arrived at Fredericksburg, took control of the heights west of the city known as Mary's Heights or Mayor's Heights. It's Maryes. So I'm going to say Mayor's Heights. And he then sent for Jackson's men, which were in Winchester, Virginia, and forced them to march down to Fredericksburg.
Okay.
So we're now getting some more reinforcements up there for the Confederates. The equipment for a single pontoon bridge, Johnny, one pontoon bridge, arrived on the 25th of November.
Okay, and so what can one pontoon bridge do for you?
I mean, you can very slowly get your army across in the matter of a couple of days.
Yeah, so
while you're funneled into very tight formation.
I mean, do you know like how many, like what you can move with one on a single trip? Like, how big are these that we're talking?
Oh,
is it 100 men, 50 men?
No, figure about 2 to 3 men across. Marching information is about 2 or 3 men marching in formation and can cross that way, and they can hold about as many men as can stand on it. I mean, they're fine. It's not like there's a massive weight. It's just the space of it. Yeah. Yep. By this time, though, obviously the Confederates have controlled the heights. They're now controlling the city. Although they recognize that it doesn't really matter to defend the city at this point. We can put a token force of sharpshooters there because we've got the high grounds. Let them have the city, but
the city's kind of meaningless at this point.
Yeah, good luck pushing us off the hill.
Yeah.
So at this point, his plans to shit. Burnside knows his plans to shit. He knows he's not going to cross the Rappahannock unimpeded. He knows he's not going to be able to race on to Richmond unimpeded. Mm-hmm. He's steering the entire army of Northern Virginia across the river. So a logical person would go, all right, scratch this. We're going to redeploy and fight a better ground because in order for me to dislodge them, I have to cross this river. I have to take the city. and then I have to take the hills beyond the city.
Yeah, and then you have to climb a hill. You were worried about rain with fording the river. You have to climb a hill, and it's going to be wet, and they have their cannons set up already. Like, how much of his decision to go ahead with it do you think is only because this was his first campaign? He's like,
first campaign, stubbornness, like
yeah.
Well, Lee gets into this during the Battle of Gettysburg, where it's like, I took Gettysburg, so I have to fight here. The enemy is here. I have to fight them, even though they control the high grounds.
Yeah.
I have to fight them. It's like, didn't we learn nothing from Episode 3 of Star Wars? Got the high ground, Anakin. Come on.
Yeah, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You know, so sometimes maybe don't sacrifice 30,000 men or whatever the case is going to be, just because of your pride.
You're not too far off.
Yeah, tell that to a civil engineer who joined the military. Good luck.
Burnside persevered, though. He was determined to cross the Rappahannock east of Fredericksburg. He made the plan to cross east of Fredericksburg at Skinker's Neck. But U.S. gunboats that were there on the river got shot to shit from D.H. Hill's division that occupied the area. So Burnside changed his plans and thought, well, look, if they're all east of the city, then surely that's where they're defending the most.
I mean,
surely Lee, like an idiot, moved all of his men off the heights to the east. So you know what I'm going to do, Johnny? I'm gonna go right down the center, because that's
how you do it. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So how do you not see the name Skinker's Neck and know that if you go into that city, you're getting shot at? Like, I know that now. Like, it doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing there. If you go to Skinker's Neck, someone's going to shoot at you.
Someone's going to get shot. Yep. Burnside famously wrote, I think now that the enemy will be more surprised by crossing immediately in our front than any other part of the river. I'm convinced that a large force of the enemy is now concentrated at Port Royal, its left resting on Fredericksburg, which we hope to turn. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it for everybody. He was wrong. And yes, Lee was surprised that you want to cross at the center, because what? That's the most Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Yeah, boxers are also surprised when their opponent just puts his guard down and stands in front of them. And lets
that doesn't mean it's going to be good. Now, at this point, you might be wondering to yourself, Lee does have the high ground, but why isn't he advancing on the troops that are pretty much just out in the open on the other side of the river? Well, partly common sense, because I have to cross same said river, and there are also 220 Union guns on the heights on the other side of the river. Yeah. And these are going to be one of the main saving graces of the Army of the Potomac coming up.
Well, but I mean, Lee didn't really. He was defending, right?
And that's the other thing. It's
he's
when you're
sitting
defending,
on it.
You always, like, one of my favorite video game series is Total War series. And how I conduct myself playing that game, it doesn't matter what version of the game I play, I always do a defensive campaign whenever possible. If I attack an army, I will surround that army, siege that army, and wait for them to attack me, where I can sit in one spot and take you out with guns or cannons or bows or whatever.
It's a whole lot easier to sit and let them come to you
than it is for you to go to them.
And to counter that than it is to, just go on the offensive.
Well, Johnny, by December 11th, the battle's going to finally begin, even though we've been here for almost a month now.
Just hanging out on the hilltops.
Just hanging out. I can only imagine the boredom that these soldiers were going through, just there and waiting for those damn pontoon bridges.
Yeah, I guess. But, I mean, what's the alternative to do for fun in 1862?
Meet hookers women?
Yeah, I think that might be about it. Then they had that little hoop and stick game that's so popular.
They had poker. They played a lot of poker, or devil's cards, you know.
Well, and you can do that, and I'm sure they were doing that, as they're sitting around they're waiting. And so I'm guessing it's a whole lot more fun than being back home doing whatever the hell they did.
Farming work?
Yeah,
probably.
Or being a shoe
or working at a factory for 16 hours a day for $1 a day, while probably getting smashed in the machines because safety standards didn't exist yet.
Well, but most of these troops were older than 12 years old, right? Didn't they cap the age of factories at 12? Like, your hands would get too big after that, and you can't reach them into the machine.
Yeah, you're right, Johnny. In some factories, that was the case. So by December 11th, 6 pontoon bridges had actually arrived and they started being built right in front of Fredericksburg on the dawn of December 11th. So we're now starting to build these bridges, and immediately they become under fire by sharpshooters that are in the city because, well, yep. So these poor engineers are getting cut down because I'm out in the middle of the river.
Now,
no cover. Look at me.
Now, what was a sniper carrying, or what type of what was a sniper rifle back then?
For the Confederates?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, eventually I'll do an episode on like sharpshooter rifles of the Civil War, but for the Confederates, their most beloved was a Wentworth rifle, which was basically a Enfield musket, which is a British rifle that was for target shooters.
Okay.
But turned into military use by the Confederates because they could. Yeah. And what made that gun special, it was an octagonal barrel that was twisted, like superheated and then twisted.
Okay.
And the bullet was also octagonal, so it fit perfectly with the barrel. And so that's what gave it super accuracy, was the barrel was twisted.
Because it had such a tight
and had
span.
a nice, tight-fitting bullet, so it had real good accuracy.
And so what's the range on? What's the range for something like that back then?
Between 600 and 800 yards was.
So that's still that's really good.
These guns, even my 1855 Springfield, you can hit targets out to 600 yards with it. Now, you're aiming like you're lobbing the bullets in when you're doing that, and you're not getting the most accuracy out of it. But
but I mean, that's sniper rifles today that shoot from whatever 18,000 miles away or whatever.
Yeah, we're not that. Yeah, we're not quite there, but we're still close. I mean,
but those, like with the wind and everything, when they're shooting from a mile out or whatever, they're shooting way off the target and calculating wind and drop and everything. Like, it's wild. So that's a lot further than I would have thought.
Otherwise, they typically used whatever they happened to have at hand. I mean, the Confederate Army was a war of attrition to begin with, so they just had what they had. So they
mostly I was curious how
whatever, a lot of them used Kentucky long rifles, civilian guns.
Yeah. But they're getting out 600, 800 yards away.
But that's at the high end. But
right. But even if you can go 500 yards out, that's I mean, that's a.
And they're shooting about 300 yards away, 200 yards away. I mean, they're right at the edge, inside the buildings, at the edge of the river at Fredericksburg. So they're not. These targets aren't massively far away. So they are making critical hits easily.
Yeah.
So the 220 Union guns decide, well, I'm going to just blow the shit out of the city and dislodge the sharpshooters with some artillery fire.
Sure.
So they start barraging the city. But the problem is most of the houses in Fredericksburg are stone built with really good stone cellars. So they had bomb-proof stuff. Like, they were literally sitting in the cellar, like the wine cellar, just shooting out the window out of the cellar, and perfectly fine from the artillery fire because whatever, it's like a bomb shelter at this point.
Bouncing off like pellets, like ting, ting.
Pretty much. So at this point, the Union General Henry J. Hunt, who is considered the best artillery mind of the war on both sides, suggested sending a small infantry landing party by boat to secure a beachhead that would allow the engineers to then build the bridges safely without being shot at by snipers.
Okay, yeah, so you get a little area in point B that you can secure, and then you can provide protection as people make the road or whatever, bridge.
And you know what Burnside said to that?
Why would he say he said no?
Well, he said no at first. He said, and I quote, "The effort meant death to most of those who should undertake the voyage, so I do not agree with this."
So instead...
So this is important. So he's concerned about several hundred soldiers crossing by boat to secure a beachhead, but later he's not so concerned.
Well, I mean, the entire thing, you gotta, like, if you're in control of 100,000 people and you're gonna march all those people, or however many they engage, you're gonna march all these people. You're gonna lose a lot, probably.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a friggin' idiot like Burnside appeared to be.
Yep.
And so he's like, no, we don't want to, risk 100 lives for the safety of everybody else. So instead, we'll just let them die later with other people.
Yeah, pretty much. So Hall did the smart move, and he basically went up to the men and says, "Hey, any volunteers to go across the river and set up a beachhead? And at this point, the war is still relatively fresh, and we haven't had any massive atrocities yet. So they're like, 3 cheers for Hall! And when Burnside Hall heard that people were like, yeah, let's do it, he said, okay, fine. So 135 infantrymen from the 7th Michigan, 19th Massachusetts, and 20th Massachusetts crossed the river at 3 p.m., successfully spread out in a skirmish line and cleared the sharpshooters.
Boom.
Great. By 4:30, Sumner's Right Grand Division began crossing into the city, although the bulk of his forces really wouldn't get in there until about the 12th of December.
All right. Well, that seems successful.
So we're going there. Hooker's Grand Center Division would actually cross on the 13th during the heat of the biggest parts of the battle that is about ready to ensue on the 13th. A little bit of background information about Hooker for you guys, and he's about the last one that I'm going to do because there's so many generals in this. I can't do – this will be a 5-hour episode if I do backgrounds on all of them.
Yeah, I don't think we need that.
No, we don't. But Hooker we have to because
if you're interested in any of the other 50 generals or whatever, look them up.
Yeah, look them up. Johnny, can you guess Hooker's occupation?
Career military.
Yeah! Yes! Johnny got it right.
I knew I was going to get one.
You're going to get just a 50-50 shot, Johnny. Just stick with it. Eventually,
well, I'm at about 25% right now, I think. So.
I think you are. His nickname was Fighting Joe. So not the most original, but not awful either, I guess.
I mean, actually, you don't know that it's not that original. He might have been the very first one.
Fighting Joe. He did have a reputation as a hard-drinking ladies' man. And the term hookers, although hookers, the term was in print as far back as 1845, it became popular when Hooker tended to have a band of women that followed his army everywhere he went, which were known as Hooker's Army or Hooker's Brigade.
Yeah.
And even a brothel in Washington, D.C. got nicknamed Hooker's Brigade. So,
frequent consumer.
Consumer, yep.
Or whatever it would be.
Or whatever you want to call it, yep. So the terminology for hooker or prostitute became popular with his name, although it didn't originate with his name. But he didn't hurt its reputation.
Well, but he popularized it. And that's really the most important bit of any word origin or anything. It's who popularized the thing, not who came up with it.
So the 12th of December was mostly urban hand-to-hand combat through Fredericksburg itself.
So just fighting in the streets?
Just fighting hand-to-hand. And this was the first instance in U.S. history where there was major urban combat. So, yes, even through the Revolutionary War, Mexican-American War, and all that stuff, we didn't have massive battles that took place through the city itself.
Now, are people bringing out their swords and their daggers or knives or shanks or whatever, or is it just they're just brawling with like a stick?
It's all of the above. You got people shooting from houses. You have people going in to try to clear the houses. You've got bayonet combat, knife combat.
So it's like a riot. Combat. It's not like a battle. It's like a riot.
Yeah, it's a riot at this point. And by the end of the 12th, the Union Army had secured Fredericksburg and celebrated through a shit ton of looting.
I mean, how else are you going to celebrate taking over a city?
And I mean, a crap ton of looting. Probably more than they should have let happen.
Hey, you pick them clean. You know what?
Civilians in both the North and the South were shocked at the level of destruction and looting that happened from Northern soldiers.
And not to be crass, I'm guessing it wasn't just looting.
No, it wasn't just looting.
I'm guessing there was some pillaging, and there was some of the stuff that also goes along with the pillaging.
Yep. 5,000 rounds of artillery were fired on the 12th at Fredericksburg itself. So there's a lot of holes and stuff.
Wow, yeah. Well, but luckily they're mostly stone buildings, right? So
yeah, they're okay-ish. Yeah, there's plenty of stone.
Some broken windows, some holes in the roof, whatever.
Yeah, and if you go to Fredericksburg today, there's still a crap ton of old buildings lying around.
Ashley said she's been there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, nice. Yeah. Well, she should be familiar with some of this.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll let me know if she ever listens to it.
She won't listen to it, Johnny. Our wives don't listen to this. It's disappointing.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
The behavior enraged Lee because obviously this is his home state, and you really pissed off my home state. You destroyed it. So now I'm going to be even more determined to dig my heels in.
Yeah. Yeah, you done messed up now, son.
The crossing of the Union's left Grand Division was largely uneventful because D.H. Hill pulled most of his forces to man the main defensive line south of the city. So, hey, way to go, Burnside. Your original plan of crossing in the east would have worked out well because it was largely undefended, but instead, we'll go right at him.
Right through the gut of it.
Idiots.
That seems to work. Like, it seems to me that there are cases of people just going straight down the middle and you split the force and stuff, but it seems like a very different scenario than what
not going through the middle of a city and then trying to attack heights.
Yeah.
Not how I would have done it. Go on the flanks, or even better yet, find better land to fight on, because right now you're screwed.
Yeah, or get there before them, like you could have.
Well, like he did, and then just sat there for a month.
Yeah,
and I have
climb
to
those hills,
reiterate
Val.
I have to reiterate this. This isn't Richmond. This isn't Vicksburg. This isn't a city of high train traffic. This isn't a city of substantial port traffic. This isn't a city that has any substantial value to it.
So this is your podunk run-of-the-mill city.
Yeah, this is just
a city that
just
exists.
a city that I was going to happen to cross at,
and they've been chilling there for however long they've been a city, not and just quietly to themselves, not making an impact, not doing anything.
And even if you took Fredericksburg, it's not like you took Richmond or Vicksburg,
right? It's you took
or
Arcadia, Indiana, or
or New Orleans, or any of that kind of stuff. No, this is just you took Arcadia, Indiana. Congratulations,
good job, pal.
So the main fighting happens on the 13th, and I'm going to break this down between the southern line fighting,
okay,
and the Mayor's Height, which is the center line fighting, or towards the north fighting. And I'm doing this because this is the only way I can save face for the Union is what they did in the South.
So you're rewriting history a little bit.
No, I'm not rewriting history. The battle happens simultaneously.
You're just arranging it in such a way that shines a better light on
at least
the side you like more.
At least a slightly better light.
Okay, that's fair. I think when you win a war, you're allowed to do that.
So it's important to know that this is all happening at the same time. Okay.
Okay. So
but I'm going to start with I'm going to focus on the two major parts of the battle. I'm going to start with the South line because we didn't do so bad there.
All right.
And I say we because I'm in blue. Fuck you fuckers at home.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm in blue. I can say we.
Is that a dark blue or is it black?
No, it's blue. It's a very dark. It's a very, very dark blue.
Yeah. Okay.
It's almost like a black. But it's blue.
Okay. Fair enough. So we're starting in the South. This is by the hills.
This is on the southern line. There are still hills here, but it's not Mayor's Heights.
It's okay. Mayor's Heights are where the two hills are that Lee went up and squatted.
They're in the center. Like they're basically just Heights, west of the city.
Okay.
So this is due south of the city, but still in a straight line. I can't remember the name of the hills off the top of my head, but I'll get there because it's in my notes somewhere. Anyways, so Burnside kept changing his damn mind, and his orders kept getting confused. And on the evening of the 12th, Franklin, who's in charge of the Grand Army of the Right, so what's down in the South, he's like, dude, can I get an answer as to what the hell I'm supposed to be doing tomorrow? Because it's 5 o'clock. I need to know what I'm doing. I need to get my men prepared to know what they're doing. What the hell am I doing?
Yeah, I wanted to mention that too, because you said Burnside keeps changing his mind and coming up with new plans or whatever else. He's trying to disseminate information the day before to 100,000 people about what they're supposed to do the next day.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard to do.
1,000 that are actually engaged.
Like, you send an email to 100,000 people, half of them aren't going to reply before the next day.
Good luck, right?
Like, so he's trying. So this guy comes up to him at 5 o'clock. He's like, "What do I do? What do I tell my men?" And then they have to be able to plan and execute it. 5
p.m. on the 12th. Franklin knows that there's going to be a frontal assault on the 13th because that's the plan.
Right.
Well, he doesn't know what the plan is other than we're going to be attacking on the 13th.
We're going to go.
Okay.
Burnside's like, I thought that was enough. Like, we're going to attack. What do you mean? What else?
Burnside's orders didn't reach Franklin until 7 a.m. on the 13th.
Oh, my God. Rise and shine, pal. You're going to battle.
Franklin thought that the orders would be that, and I've got a. So the army sizes are like basically you've got a regiment, you got a company, a regiment, a brigade, a division, and a corps.
Right.
They use the terms like Grand Left Division. That's more like a corps. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Corps is approximately
at least 2 divisions.
2 divisions.
2 to 4 divisions.
Okay.
Okay.
So these are big numbers.
These are big. A division is about 10,000 men. Usually.
Yeah. So
or more.
Yeah. 20, 30,
so
40,000
Franklin
people.
had 60,000 men underneath him, and he thought that sure as shit, the order would be to commit all your troops. Just go at them. We outnumber them damn near 2 to 1.
Yeah. Oh, just run them straight over and overwhelm them and
press them hard and press them quick.
Make them turn tail.
And that's run. If you have the number advantage, that's what you do. To hell with being called a butcher later. That's what you do. I mean, that's what the Russians did. Just overwhelm them with numbers.
Yeah. That's historically that's what it's always boiled. Well, until more recent, I suppose. But in the older wars, that's kind of what it always boiled down to was how many men are you willing to sacrifice to overwhelm and overrun the other side?
Like Johnny said before, it doesn't matter what you feel. If you're willing to sacrifice human life, you can accomplish anything.
You can do anything you want as long as you don't care about people.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Stalin. Instead, the orders came down, and I quote this order: commit a division at least.
At least?
What the hell does that mean?
A division?
A division? Do I commit a division? Do I commit multiple divisions? Did you want a brigade?
I would take that as, okay, I'm going to at least commit every single person that I have.
The order was then followed up with seize Prospect Hill. That's the name of the hill I was talking about. Okay. Prospect Hill. And send 1 division through the city and attack the center, where the flanks would be prepared to commit the full armies when Lee would be intimidated by these weaker attacks and withdraw. So Burnside thought...
he was going to be intimidated by weaker attacks?
Burnside thought, I will commit a division in the south and a division in the center.
Yeah.
The rest of the army will be waiting in the flanks, where when Lee is intimidated... because he's totally intimidated after we raped and pillaged the city.
Yeah. Well,
he's totally going to back down now.
Sure.
Then we'll commit everybody when they're in retreat.
But why? But why? Why not? Why would you? Why?
Johnny, I don't know. I can't make
from
sense of
the get-go.
I told you to buckle up because I cannot, for the life of me, make any sense out of any decision that was made during this entire campaign.
Burnside had to have been just freaking out and just stressed out and just completely flabbergasted by everything.
Like,
it sounds like he doesn't know what to do.
He just doesn't know what he's doing. Imagine putting a random
to
citizen.
Be fair, he was the one that said, "I don't know what I'm doing," from the beginning.
I don't blame him.
It's hard to cast blame on somebody who says, "I don't know how to do this."
I don't blame him for being in the position that he's in. I blame God how you were right. You were dumb. You don't know what the hell you're doing, and you made a lot of really stupid...
the thing about it is, if I were thrown into a position where I don't know what to do,
maybe go to your underlings and have them give you some suggestions.
Yeah. Maybe these people who have been successful in the past and are good at their things, maybe take their advice and be like, "Oh, you think I should do this? Okay, that sounds like let's give that a go." Or at the very least, so can you explain to me why you would do this?
Something
instead of nah, we'll send 10,000 men that way, 10,000 men that way, and then we'll hit them with the 80,000 we have in reserves after they start fleeing. What?
Exactly. To make matters worse, he used the word seize as opposed to carry. Now, modern context, we think seize is worse than carry, right? But in the Civil War...
Okay, so what you're going to have to explain to me what both these. Seize, I kind of understand.
Okay.
Carry?
So seize at that point basically meant...
to take control.
Kind of try to take control of the hill.
Okay.
Carry would mean push them off that motherfucking hill. Like, you're carrying that hill. You're taking over the hill, and you're going beyond the hill.
Oh, okay.
You're pushing them off.
That sounds less aggressive than C's.
It does, but in the Civil War ye old timey terminology,
Yeah.
in military doctrine, carry was the more aggressive terminology.
Okay.
He didn't
And so
use
he said
carry.
C's though.
He said C's. Yeah.
Okay.
So that makes it even worse. So Franklin assumes that he means send one division. So he sends one division.
Yeah. And so C's would be, even if you send that division and they start to retreat or whatever, they're going to kind of hang out and stop once.
Yeah, they're not going to continue to press forward. You're not going to commit
even
more troops.
If it worked.
The important part is C's means you're not going to commit more troops to carry that hill. You're just going to occupy it.
Right. Okay.
So the other problem is the fog. There was a lot of really bad fog on December 13th in the morning, and it didn't clear until about 10:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So we don't have an early morning.
As we know, they really, really like to start shit early in the Civil War.
Yeah,
so this must have put a big crimp in their plans.
It did, because they are now not fighting until 10:30.
Which, by the way, would be my preferred starting time if I had to go to battle.
Yeah, right.
I'll sleep until 9:30, 10 o'clock, get 30 minutes prep time. All right, let's do this.
Franklin advances with the Meade. He sends Meade, who's one of his division generals, out front. And within 600 yards of the line, they kind of immediately stall because there's a shit ton of Confederate horse artillery that was being hidden by the fog.
Okay, so horse artillery.
Yeah, that's massively mobile artillery. So
okay, so like the horses are pulling carts with the artillery.
Yeah. So usually they're about 10-pound guns or lower.
Okay.
And they're
10-pound is not the weight of the gun itself, is it the weight
of
the
weight of the shell. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And they're able a light gun.
It's a light gun, and they're able to move in and out of areas rapidly. And you can deploy those guns in areas that it would be harder to put like a siege cannon in.
Sure.
So these are mobile guns. Meade finally is able to begin his movement after being stalled at about 1 p.m., where they took advantage of a gap in the line of the Confederates in the woods. So basically, there's this woods right about the center of the hill, and the Confederates decided we don't need to put people there. Yeah. So Meade said, hey, look, you see the woods there, that there's nobody defending it? We're going right up the middle.
Just right on through it.
This is an example of going up the middle is fine because there's nobody there to defend it.
Yeah. I'm guessing it was super easy to pass through those woods, though, too.
Meade's division was able to make it to the top of the ridge of Prospect's Height, where Confederate Commander Bragg's brigade had stacked their arms because they had taken cover from the Union barrage of artillery pieces across the river. So while this is all going on, the Union is doing an artillery barrage to give cover for the infantry moving up.
And so they stacked their arms and they surrendered.
No, their arms stacked means that their arms are in like a little teepee thing, and they're stacked when they're not expecting combat. So is that just to protect them from the barrage? Well, or they went to protect themselves from the barrage. The guns were stacked because that's the way they were from the night before.
Okay, so they just figure whatever.
So they were seeking cover. They haven't been armed. So most of Bragg's brigade was actually killed or captured without arms. So they didn't have the guns with them. So Meade had it easy right off the bat. Like, we're at the top of the hill.
Got it. Nailed it.
We got it. Yeah. We took Bragg's brigade and killed most of them without their guns. So screw them.
Go ahead and get on that radio communicator. Let them know.
Yeah, telegraph something. Yeah, a little bit before that. They do have flags for signaling, though, so there's that. Most of the Confederate regimental commanders of Bragg's brigade were shot or killed during this assault, so they are leaderless, clueless, and in retreat.
Sounds pretty good so far.
So now what do you think about doing, Johnny? Do you think maybe I commit more than one division and maybe start sending some more up there and exploit this?
Seems to me like you just start flooding that area. I'm gonna guess that's not what happened.
Nope.
If I were a betting man, I would say they said, "Yay, we did it," and then
they
just kind of hung out.
"Yay, we did it. Let's sit here at the top of the hill and wait and see what happens."
Mission accomplished.
And you know what happens, Johnny?
Did the Confederates get reinforcements?
Confederates get a crap ton of reinforcements.
Well, damn.
To make matters worse, underneath Franklin, there was General Reynolds, who was successful at pushing Bragg's off the hill as well. But there were also Burns divisions, Smith's divisions, and Doubleday's divisions in reserve that Franklin did not commit to this assault because.
And so all these people, they're all these soldiers and divisions, they're just hanging out.
Yeah, you had three full divisions that are literally just hanging out at the bottom of the hill,
awaiting orders.
Could have easily gone up, but didn't because they weren't given the orders.
How many of those soldiers do you think are looking at it and be like, man, we could just do it?
And if you turn, it doesn't matter if Mares Heights is intact. If you turn the right flank of the Confederate Army on the south, you win.
Yeah,
you just roll them up.
Well, yeah, you get that southern bit, and can't you just basically
and then just march straight up north, up?
Yeah, and then just right back up.
Then you just march straight up, and you hit their
flank.
And
now suddenly they're fighting a war on two fronts, which is what got Hitler in so much trouble.
Right? It always comes back to Hitler.
You got to mention him in every episode.
I know we do. Meade, his division was the smallest at only 4,500 men.
Oh my God.
Why did we send him at the weakest division? And by smallest, it means they were shot to shit in previous battles.
Yeah, he's already lost a bunch of people. Maybe that's why they're like, you know what? These guys, they've been kind of used to it. So they're
when the Confederates,
what are you gonna do?
When they got their reinforcements and regrouped, Meade was left on top of the hill, taking fire from three sides.
Oh, how shitty would that be? Like, you go and you take a hill, and you're like, "Hey, I did it, guys! Look at this. Can I get some help?" And then all of a sudden, three different sides you're getting shot at from.
Like, what do you do with that?
What a shit situation to be in.
Reynolds, which is another one of the division commanders, takes it upon himself to send Gibbons to support Meade.
Gibbons is a name. He's not sending the monkey.
No, it's a name. It's a name of another commander. Yeah, Gibbons.
Because that would be Army of Gibbons.
Army of monkeys? That'd be terrible.
I'll tell you what.
Unfortunately, it took till 1:30 for that order to go through and for the men to start moving. And by that time, that gap in the woods, it had closed.
Yeah, the Confederates oh, wait, they started using that? Okay.
Gibbons would eventually reach the heights with Meade and will result in very, very brutal hand-to-hand combat by both sides, resorting to the bayonet after both sides ran low or out of ammunition altogether. So this
I was going to ask what would lead them to just doing a hand-to-hand combat, but I guess they run out of ammo.
They ran out of ammunition or ran really low on ammunition, especially
turns into a little bit more punchy, stabby than
a lot more punchy, stabby. So brutal hand-to-hand combat. Meade was so annoyed at the slow pace of the rest of the army and not following up that he berated one of the staff lieutenants, saying, "Almost makes stones creep." I love the way old people talk. But he's right. I mean, they weren't doing shit. Like, we have the hill. Where the hell is their army?
Real quick, for anybody who isn't familiar, can you talk just a little bit about a bayonet and why it is so awful?
So the bayonets in the Civil War were triangular. It's not like a sword bayonet where it's just flat like a knife.
Right.
It is actually a triangle shape.
Yeah.
The reason why it's a triangle shape is because when you stab somebody with a triangle shape, it's not easy to sew up.
Yeah.
You now have 3 lines to sew as opposed to 1.
Instead of just one.
It leaves a big old hole for things to get infected.
Yeah.
So, by the way, they are outlawed by the Geneva Convention in modern warfare.
Yeah, just thought I should point that out, that it's a little bit different than just being sliced with a sword or a knife or something. It was...
you were being stabbed by a spike.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Or clubbed with the end of
the butt of the rifle, yeah, which is probably, I don't know
which I don't want either.
You know what? Hit me in the head. Maybe you'll knock me out. That's my hope.
I think if I was one of the ones in the hand-to-hand, I'd be like, "Oh no, you got me."
Oh no. Yeah, but that's why people walk around just stabbing corpses, though, right?
Yeah,
at least in movies, I see anyway.
It happens in real life too, Johnny.
It had to come from somewhere, right?
It comes from somewhere. At the end of the day, there was not enough men, supplies to push the positions, and Reynolds and Meade were forced to withdraw all their troops and lose the grounds that they had gained during that day.
What a bummer. All for naught.
What a freaking bummer. As the fighting died down on the top of the hill, the screams of the men, horses could be heard all across the battlefield because there was a shit ton of men and horses, especially on the top of the hill, although we'll get to where Mares Heights happened as well. So the night of the 13th was filled with screams of people and animals for miles around.
Can you imagine being a resident of Fredericksburg? Like, not in the city, but maybe, just a little bit off. And
Like
you're
a
just,
farmhouse, a mile down the road.
yeah, and you're just sitting in your house and you've been hearing, cannon fire and gunshots, and now your afternoon is just an evening is just filled with the wailing and screaming of horses and men dying on the hill like a mile away.
Doesn't make for a great day, does it, Johnny?
My God. Like, what? What do you do?
Well, now we get to the attack on the center at Mares Heights.
All right, so this is at the same time as what we had just talked about.
This is all going on at the same time.
Okay.
Buckle up, guys. This is where it gets rough.
So I'm sorry. That was the Union looking good.
That's Union looking good.
What we just talked about, that was their shining moment because they took a hill for a minute.
Yep. Okay. Burnside was frustrated that his attack on the left flank wasn't going as well according to plan, down in the south, and he ordered Franklin to advance on his right towards the center of the line, but Franklin refused, claiming that all of his troops were engaged. They weren't, but Franklin was smart enough to look over at the center of the line and see that shit was really going bad over there, so he said, no, I'm not gonna, nope.
They are occupied.
And you might be wondering to yourself, what happened? Well, right off the bat, Burnside orders Sumner to seize the high ground to the west of the city, known as Mares Heights, but to commit, again, a division or more instead of the entire right Grand Division. Dum, da, dum, 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 dum.
A division or more.
And the butchery begins, Johnny.
Like, that is just terrible leadership.
So let me paint the picture here. I'm going to paint the picture here, right?
All right, give it to me.
My beer can. That's the Heights.
All right, this is only going to be if you really want to see this, you're going to have to go on YouTube.
YouTube, yeah, okay.
But any audio,
I will paint the picture. You've got the Heights. On the Heights, you have all the Confederate artillery on Mares Heights. Underneath the Heights, you have what's called a Sunken Road, which is literally a road that is sunken down in the ground, and then there's a lip, and then there's a 4-foot stone wall in front of that lip. So what this means is the artillery pieces can safely fire overhead of the Confederate lines and into the Union lines.
That's a nice little setup.
The Confederate infantry that's in the Sunken Road can load their guns safely out of sight of the Union Army that's approaching, step up on the lip of the Sunken Road and be protected by a 4-foot concrete
wall, or shoot over that
stone wall, and fire from safe cover at the oncoming Union troops. Right there,
seems like a really, really good idea to just march straight at it.
Right there, if I was a general, I'd say, we're not marching there. That's stupid. Yeah. To make matters even worse, it is an open field of sorts. And by open field of sorts, I mean there are an occasional barn that they have to cross over and go around. Yeah. There are an ass ton of fences to block off farms and little plots of, gardens.
Right, yeah, this is my little area.
And about 200 yards out. About 200 yards from the stone wall and 200 yards from the city is a canal that they have to cross.
Okay, so 200 yards though, that's well within the range of
the infantry rifles, yeah.
Any type of rifle that they're shooting at that time.
So if you're marching
as they're crossing this creek or whatever, they can canal, they can be getting wrecked.
Yeah. And the entire time they're marching, they can't march in spread out formation because of all the random, fences that they have to cross.
Right, yeah.
When they get to the canal, they have to condense their formation to cross the canal.
Yeah.
And then you've got another 200 yards before you hit that wall. Johnny, we've got numbers on our side. We're the North. We've got 2-to-1 odds, right?
Man, I mean, I guess, but you're going to need like China military numbers for that.
Well, this stones, the Sunken Road is only defended by 2,000 Confederates.
Okay.
With 7,000 in reserve. So when you're sending a division of 4,500 or more men,
yeah,
why don't you send a bunch of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, you might as well send. I mean, you have to know that you're walking into a situation where you're losing a lot of men.
So just bum rush them and
So
hope for the best.
just go and hope to overwhelm them and freak them out a little bit.
Well, that's not what the order was, Johnny.
They just send them one at a time to see what would happen.
When the fog lifted at 10 a.m., Sumner gave the command to move forward with French's brigade under General Nathan Kimball, which they advanced slowly and were devastated by artillery fire the entire way. And then they were within 125 yards of the stone wall. They were cut down by infantry fire. One brigade. They sent one brigade out of a division up. One brigade
is approximately...
a brigade is about 5,000-ish men.
Okay. My question, so obviously they knew the setup that the Confederate was in. Like they could see, you can see you have scouts or
yeah,
whatever,
you can see it.
So they have an idea of what they're walking into.
Well, let me rephrase that. Burnside didn't know what he was walking into because Burnside did not do a survey of the field.
Okay.
So he did not go down on his horse and look at it.
Right.
Sumner also did not do a survey of the field.
Okay. So they didn't really know.
No, not entirely. They probably should have done some scouts, but they should have listened to the under people that said, okay. So the first Kimball, he himself would be severely wounded during this first assault. His brigade would suffer 25% casualties, which in the grand scheme of things is not too awful.
I mean, considering
what you faced.
That could have been way worse.
And by the way, when I say 25% casualties, I don't mean like the rest of them were able to easily walk back across that same field that they were getting shot at. Most of them bit the dirt and just hoped for the best and just laid down and please, dear God, let me live through this day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, really, because again, we are talking about a bunch of probably 16 to 22, 24-year-old volunteers.
Yep.
That I'm going to go fight this easy war for the North and I'm going to be an American hero and I'm going to
come home pretty quick, but then not really come home pretty quick because what the hell?
And yeah, how bad could it possibly be? And now all of a sudden go ahead and march towards that where you're getting artillery fire and then, oh, by the way, a bunch of dudes are going to pop up over a little wall and just start shooting at you. And you're going to have about like a quarter-size space where you need to hit to do anything to them.
Well, Johnny,
whole body.
Do you think Burnside stopped and said, well, that was stupid?
I would hope that he either stopped or said, I'm going to just overwhelm it with everybody.
Nope. He then sent French's brigades of Andrews up.
So just try again.
By Palmer. Huh?
So just same thing.
Same thing. One brigade of Andrews, followed by one brigade of Palmer, with casualty rates of almost 50% for those two brigades.
I mean, the Confederates have to be sitting back. Like, wait, seriously? They just keep coming? There's more? They're doing it again.
Do you think that stopped, Johnny? Do you think that stopped him?
Yes.
Nope.
Not three. Not after three.
He ordered a division. Burnside then ordered a division of Hancock to support French. Hancock sent a brigade under Zook, who fell to a similar fate, 50% casualties, followed by the Irish brigade under Mager, who ironically attacked a portion of the Confederate line held by a fellow Irishman, McMillan, who upon seeing the Irish brigade's flag said, oh God, what a pity, here comes Mager's fellows, but then exhorted his troops and says, well, give it to them now, boys. Now's the time. Give it to them.
And
Johnny, they gave it to him.
Yeah, just obliterated.
They cut him down.
Like, this is the definition of insanity.
Yes.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Major General Oliver Howard was then sent up to support, and he said, look, this is not working. I'm going to go ahead and go down farther north and attack their flank. But then Franklin ordered him to support the center where he had to change his mind and support French and moved his troops right up into the center.
So he had the one good idea where, like, maybe we can distract him a little bit, separate him a little bit, spread him out, like maybe take some of them out by flanking him. And they're like, nah.
No, don't do that. Go down the center.
Right up the gut.
And they went the center again. Burnside, not to be dismayed by the evening of the 13th, ordered Franklin to resume his attack on the left. So Franklin back down, back down in the hills in the south. He says, you guys got to start that attack again. And then he ordered Hooker to cross the river on the 13th and attack up the center. Hooker did one thing that nobody else did, and he actually rode his horse to the front lines and said, that is fucking stupid.
No,
not doing it.
Thank you.
Nope. He had a meeting with Burnside and Sumner.
He's like, have you seen some of these women
have
that
you
I have
seen
in
this
my
crap?
harem?
And
like,
Burnside said, no. He said, no, I haven't seen it, but I feel that they're about ready to break.
How bad could it be?
By 4 p.m., Hooker returned and was forced by Burnside to reluctantly order his 9th Corps to attack under Getty, who was cut down.
That's gotta suck.
Like, this is stupid. It's suicidal, but you have to. The big boss told you have to do it, so you have to do it.
Yeah, sorry, half of you are gonna die. My boss is an idiot.
In total, Johnny, 7 Union divisions were sent in, generally 1 brigade at a time, all of which failed, resulting in 8,000 dead. Now, that's not awful in comparison to how much it could have been because of how many people there were, but 8,000 dead. Confederates on this part of the line,
right?
Yeah, 1,200 was all the Confederates lost on this part of the line.
1,200.
I know that's a lot, but in comparison,
well, no, I'm gonna say that sounds like nothing. Like with how this has all been, like when you bring that many men and you just sit back, like I'm guessing at least 40 to 50 of them were killed by their own people.
This is
somehow
the most lopsided. I believe it's the most lopsided victory in U.S. history or defeat in U.S. history, like ever. This was catastrophic. By the way, Johnny, those wounded guys on the field that aren't able to retreat.
Yeah,
they were left there in the cold overnight. Many of which were actually ordered to stay in position. The ones that weren't wounded but were still up towards the front. Yep, stay there.
I was going to say the wounded ones are like, okay, can't do anything else. I lost a leg from artillery fire. I'll just bleed here to death, I guess.
And to make matters worse, Johnny, it's December. Even though you're in Virginia, it's still December and it's still cold. They were ordered to drop packs before they marched, which the packs contained extra blankets, extra clothing, extra rations, extra ammunition, extra water. They dropped all the packs.
Just to save weight?
Their bedrolls for speed. Usually when you go into combat, you don't want the 60-pound backpack hanging on you.
Yeah. So this isn't before. This is before they marched to combat, not before they.
This is before they started the battle. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they brought their packs to Fredericksburg.
Yes, but they were told to drop the packs before going in.
All right, I'm up to speed.
Which meant no bedrolls, no tents, no blankets, no extra clothes, no nothing. So they're freezing in the middle of the night, wounded, hungry, thirsty, freezing.
Soon to be dead, likely.
Soon to be dead, likely. And because of this and several other similar instances in battles, that's when the bedroll that you see a lot of soldiers carry around their shoulder at like reenactments or in pictures and stuff, that's where that becomes popular because, well, I'm not going to get caught without a blanket or a bedroll again.
Yeah, no shit. Like I got to at least have something to wrap myself up in. I'll bet soldiers today carry those little foil bed like blankets.
Maybe. I don't know.
Trap the heating, help keep them warm. Survival blankets.
I'm going to kind of rapid fire the next little bit here because we've gone a little bit long.
You don't say. I saw that sheet of notes.
Yeah,
I didn't read. I thought I was going to read it. I was going to prep myself.
I knew you weren't going to read them.
I saw all those pages. I'm like, nah, never mind.
There's a lot.
I'll let him tell me about this.
December 14th was largely nothing happened. It was Burnside going, what the fuck did I just do? Maybe we should figure out a way to get these soldiers out of the middle of the field.
Yeah, a little bit of shock and recuperation.
The boss is not going to like this one.
But, again, to be fair,
I told him I didn't know
how to do it. I told him I wasn't prepared.
By December 15th, the order to retreat across the Rappahannock had begun, and this is where those 220 Union guns kind of saved the day because they shield the Union retreat so the Confederates don't pursue.
Okay,
so the Confederates don't get they don't get a total victory. They don't destroy the Army of the Potomac.
Right.
But hot damn, do they do one hell of a punch to them.
Well, and just the the mental battle of that too. For the mentality for the North and for the soldiers involved and everything else to have a loss like that this early in a war that was supposed to be kind of a joke war.
Now, granted,
that's
I'm going to give you the casualty report here, Johnny. Casualty report.
Woo woo.
These numbers don't really do credit to what was actually done, because in comparison to like Gettysburg, where there was like 30,000 people that were killed, this isn't as bad. Union casualties were 12,653, with 1,284 being killed, 9,600 being wounded, 1,769 captured or missing, aka probably dead because they were left out in the field.
I am always surprised at how few people die when I try to consider
144,000 or 114,000 Union being engaged, and they basically lost 10%.
Yeah, well, and just you think of 10,000 men just marching through towards what the Confederate had with the artillery and
you think it would have been a bit higher, yeah.
Everything else, you think they're going to take out so many of them, and I mean, that's a lot of people. And I'm guessing a lot of these injuries later became deaths, or at least
most of those 9,600 wounded are.
Yeah, it's like you're injured. You just got shot in the arm or whatever, but 2 weeks later you're gonna die of gangrene. Sorry about you.
Yep. The Confederates lost 5,377, 608 killed, 4,116 wounded, and 653 captured or missing. So half.
Yeah.
And those numbers do not do it credit for how lopsided this was. Yeah. Now, in the South, where things were going better for the North, on the Southern Heights, the casualty rates were closer together, 4,000 Union versus, or 4,000 Confederates versus 5,000 Union. So almost all the Confederate losses happened on that southern hill.
On the small little bit where the Union took over for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then fell apart, but...
So the South obviously responded to jubilation. The Richmond Examiner described it as a stunning defeat to the invaders, a splendid victory to the defender of the sacred soil. Like, calm the fuck down, Virginia. You're not sacred. Like,
you want to get off your high horse a little bit there?
There is absolutely nothing sacred about I've been to Virginia. There's nothing sacred in Virginia. It is a swampy ass mess.
Yeah, they got some pretty trees.
Yeah. Not so happy in the North. Lincoln had hoped to shore up some support in the North for the war, and instead he came under strong attacks from the press and politicians. The Cincinnati Commercial wrote, "It can hardly be in human nature for men to show more valor or generals to manifest less judgment than what perceptible happened on our side that day."
Woof.
Yep. That's Senator Zachary Chandler wrote of the president that he is a weak man, too weak for the occasion, and those fool or traitor generals are wasting time and yet more precious blood in indecisive battles and delays. Yep.
I mean, not wrong.
Early war for the Union was bad. Lincoln made a ass ton of stupid decisions.
Yeah. See, this is why I like doing this, for one. Because it's not the history books Lincoln did nothing wrong, which is what we get spoon-fed. All of our American heroes, Lincoln, Washington, Jefferson, all these people, they're painted in this gold sheen where they there were these demigods that could do nothing wrong. And they did so many things wrong and ruined so many things.
Yeah, Lincoln did plenty wrong, especially early war Lincoln.
And that's okay. Like, it's okay that he was a human being. Like, and that all of these people were human beings, and we need to not deify them as much as we do.
So Burnside would attempt a second crossing at the Rappahannock, known as the Mud March, where that also didn't go well. There wasn't any major battles, but it didn't go well.
I mean, the Mud March sounds like he just went through some swamps and got caught and killed everybody.
Pretty much. Well, by killing everybody, he did try to relieve command of anybody underneath him that thought things weren't going his way. So less than a month after this whole battle of...
That's never gone wrong in history.
Yeah, that's never gone wrong in history. And
where you're just like, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to get rid of you. That's never gone wrong.
That's never gone wrong. Nope. Less than a month after Fredericksburg, Burnside is replaced. Wonder why? I think he was the shortest lived general of the Army of the Potomac. Because
do you think he went up to Lincoln afterwards and was just like,
I told you.
I told you so.
I told you. What were you doing? By the way, to recap, he was replaced by Hooker.
So the only reason he took it in the first place was so
because he didn't want Hooker to
get it. And so Burnside
was replaced by Hooker.
Fucks it up and is replaced by Hooker.
Yep.
What a kick in the balls.
By 1863, I'm going to go over the leadership of the Army of the Potomac by 1863. So it started with General McDowell, went to General McClellan, then to General Pope, back to General McClellan, then to Burnside, and then to Hooker. And spoiler alert, Hooker's going to be replaced by Meade, then Parke, and finally Grant. Finally in 1864, Lincoln goes, hey, Grant out in the West has not lost anything. Let's give it to that guy.
What is this? Trump's attorney generals?
I don't know.
What's the turnover rate about? Just bad assignments?
Finally in 1864, Grant, well, it's because of asininely stupid campaign after asininely stupid campaign.
Ugh.
And finally Grant gets it in May of 1864, and a year later the war's over. Weird. Only if you would have given it to him a couple of months sooner.
Yeah, or
to go ahead and start with it.
And that's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tune in next week when we talk about Pocahontas.